My name is Ed Mossbaugh, and I'm an executive director with AT&T, and I lead the team that sells services to the state of California. And today, it's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce our lunch speaker, and that is Randy Iwasaki. And I've known Randy for about 15 years, and I know Randy as a visionary, certainly a pioneer, a doer, and really as a really nice person too. And it's been my pleasure to work with him over the past 15 years. Most of you, or many of you, know Randy through his 26 years he spent at Caltrans, serving in a number of high-profile engineering and management positions. In his last position as Caltrans director, he was in charge of the operation of the California State Highway Transportation System, including more than 550,000 lane miles of state highway, intercity passenger rail, state support for local mass transportation systems, 12,400 bridges, and more than 250 general aviation airports. He oversaw an annual budget of almost $14 billion and a staff of more than 22,000 maintenance, planning, right-of-way, environmental, administrative, and engineering personnel. Currently, Randy is the executive director of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Randy was appointed to the CCTA board in April of 2010, and CCTA administers 0.5% sales tax program. The 1988 Measure C program consists of $1.1 billion in projects and programs. The 2004 Measure J program totals $3 billion, or $2 billion, and will run through 2034. So he's administering over $3 billion in projects at this time. Randy also serves on a number of national transportation panels. The panels include the Technology Coordinating Committee for the renewal portion of the Strategic Highway Research Program. And he is also the past chairman of ITS America, or the Intelligent Transportation System, I forgot the acronym, but Intelligent Transportations of America. And he's worked very much on mobile applications with ITS America. Recently, I heard a presentation by John Donovan, who's the Chief Technology Officer and runs Bell Labs for AT&T. And he tried to simplify mobile applications, and when he did, he said the first applications were really applications to kill time. And those applications were mostly games, things like Scrabble, and that type of thing. And then he said, we've moved to applications, more current applications, and those current applications are more applications to save time. So it might be vehicle tracking, asset tracking, mobile payment, those types of things. And then now we're moving into future applications. And future applications are more applications that are part of your native or your personal being. And those types of applications might be something like today if you get in your car, you'll push a button to adjust your seats and your mirrors, that type of thing. And that's a real convenience and a safety factor. Well, in the future, what if you were able to get in any car, say a rental car, and be able to use a mobile application that would do the same thing? That's the types of future applications that are coming. So why do I mention that? I mention that because that's the type of applications that Randy's working on now that he will be presenting. And so with that, I'd like you all to please give a nice welcome to Randy Iwasaki. Thank you.
Okay, I have about 60 slides and I have 22 minutes, so it's going to go by pretty quickly. So hopefully I'm on the right slide when I'm talking. But thank you very much, Russ Hicks, Ed Mossbaugh, for inviting me to speak. A couple years ago, that's how I met Russ. We talked about GIS. I think the next discussion that we'll have in the future with GIS is visualization of our transportation system, of the services that you provide. I would imagine that most of you here in the audience today are from government, so we all going to speak the same language. And what we're trying to do is we don't create the applications, we try to find a home for the applications that we see, and we work with the inventors, the pushers of this technology to help provide our traveling public with a safer, more convenient, and if you'd like, a more ecologically friendly ride. So let me get right into this. So here's the outline of the presentation. You can read it as well as I can. I'm going to talk a little bit about what, why, and how we're doing what we do in the mobile arena. I'm going to talk about where they fit first. And so if you look at this medley of different icons ahead of you, I'd like to talk a little bit about a couple very quickly. Zoom Safer. It hooks right up to your onboard diagnostic port. That's where you car aficionados have to reset your check engine light. You plug it right in. That's your diagnostic port. They plug right in there with an application. You can no longer use your cell phone. So, Mr. Valverde, George, when you're out there and you want to push a safer transport, take a look at CHP. I don't think CHP is here, but Zoom Safer. Beat the Traffic. It's a speed application. Waze. We talk a little bit about that in the future. San Francisco SF Park, it's in operation today. It'll help you find a parking space. Why do we do this? They're useful to you. You're a tourist. You're useful to designers, planners, technicians, traffic operations. And they fall under the ITS category, in my opinion, Intelligent Transportation Systems. And I'm going to focus in on these areas, not so much on the commercial vehicle. Why are they important? Key question. Mobile technology behavior, what we're trying to do is make our drivers more informed. So we have a saying, at least when I was at Caltrans, and I see there's some Caltrans folks in the group here, Coco and Ann and Doug. A safe driver, an informed driver is a safe and efficient driver. You know what's ahead, you get apprised of accidents, you have a safer route. You have a route based on time, a route based on whether you want all freeway, a route based on whether you want all local roads. Mobile technologies are helping advance transportation safety. Excuse me. V2V, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure, communication, very, very important. Driver advisories, driver warnings. In essence, in the future, you can deal with 82% of the traffic accident scenarios that occur. Today, about 33,000 people die on our roadways in the United States. That's markedly down from 42,000 a few years ago. But to put that into context in the future, the Vietnam War, I think 60,000 young men died in that war from the United States. Today, in a year and a half, you lose more people on our roadways, and that's not right. And so these applications are going to help make our transportation system safer. One of the grandfathers of a mobile application that you may be familiar with is OnStar. OnStar, when it was first offered in a General Motors car, was not well taken advantage of, I guess is the proper term. In the past, what's happened is government agencies like Caltrans builds a transportation system, they own it, they operate, and they maintain it. Automobile manufacturers came along and designed their cars. I used to say that the only good thing was that the Caltrans designed their roadways for 12 feet in width, right, each lane, and the automobile manufacturers designed their cars to be 6 feet in width. Otherwise, if it was the opposite, they'd have, well, thank you, Wes. They'd have a problem because the cars wouldn't fit on our roadways. The point is, we didn't talk a lot between the industries. Today, we're talking more and more. Ford Sync has 10,000 voice commands that you can do within that Ford vehicle. There's a lot of different MyLink has telematics infotainment systems such as Pandora. You can select the type of a song that you want to hear while you're driving along, and you can get those songs. It also has vehicle diagnostics in the future. You can talk about what's wrong with your car, and turn-by-turn navigation. Why is this important in California? I'm going to refer back to this slide, but if you look at this slide, there's a lot of money being generated in California and other places for mobility applications. So it's a big, big revenue generator for the locations that host these kinds of technologies. What makes them possible? It's the explosion of the wireless media. In the old days, when I spoke about ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems, I'd ask, how many of you in the audience have a cell phone? And not everybody had a cell phone. Today, the different question is, who in here doesn't have a cell phone? And the next question is it smart or isn't it? Because for the first time last Christmas, there were greater than 50% of all cell phones sold were smart. And so I think about Ed Mossbaugh and AT&T. My God, those data plans must be generating a lot of revenue. Interface standard. One thing that we're worried about in our industry is that if you don't have standards, you're going to have multiple platforms, multiple different types of cell phones. You're going to have one automobile industry trying to standardize this, but everybody else is going in a different direction. And so what we need to do is make sure we're consistent in our standards. We're working hard on that, and make them independent of the actual device. So don't embed something in the car that can only be used in the car, but make it more versatile. Make it so you can walk around with it. And then get the car manufacturers involved in in-car technologies. So what is currently being done? In the area of transportation, we have things like environmentally friendly. So the maps are getting smarter. They have profiles, so you can actually program your car or your telephone with a mobile application to tell, I want to take the most ecologically friendly route. So if you're in San Francisco, that may mean taking Market Street instead of going over Lombard Street, because that's going to burn more fuel and it's going to put more carbon into the atmosphere. What do we need from all of you? Government is data. So where Caltrans has loop detector data or traffic data, that data is then meshed in with the mobile applications folks, and what they do is they end up spewing out information, good information for you. And so they use traveler information systems, a 511 system, and then closed circuit television and other things to figure out what the best route is. And so this applies to buses, trains, planes, automobiles, ferries in California. And you're getting transit trip planning information, so you can actually take a trip on BART. You know when that next train is. My office now is in Walnut Creek. It's right across the street from the Pleasant Hill BART station. And so rather than stand and walk across the street any old time of the day, what I do is I time my trip so at 2 minutes, I take off out of the building, cross the street, I'm through the BART thing with my Clipper card, walk up the stairs, and boom, there's the BART train, versus missing that train and you got 15 minutes of downtime between. So, I mean, you can really tailor your trip with these applications, which saves you time and it makes you more efficient. So I mentioned some of the transit options that we have. TriMet, if you go to this website, trimet.org, there are 30 different mobile applications. So how many of you take a train into work every day? Does any of you take a train? So you take a train. One of the problems is you may fall asleep, right? And if you fall asleep, you're going to miss your stop potentially. So within this, embedded in this 30 different mobile applications that TriMet is using is called iNap. And so you program this mobile application to start buzzing your phone when you're getting close so you can wake up. Now, the old technology on some of the Southern California Metrolink trains is they hang a big sign that says, "Wake me at location X." Shake me, right? Well, now you have an application in your phone that will allow you to do that. So traveler information options, I don't know how many of you use these, but they're available today, and we like them. If you take a look at Waze, take a look at WAZE, take a look at their website, look at Carmageddon. If you remember when Caltrans closed down the 405, I wasn't at Caltrans, it went smoothly, not because I wasn't there, right, but I wasn't there. But I can remember closing the Bay Bridge down, you're trying to scare people away. Well, Waze is the ability for you to tie in and then share information amongst your Waze users. And so not only are you getting traveler information, but you're telling people, hey, stay away from Highway X because there's a big pothole. And hopefully one of these days Caltrans will dial into Waze and they'll figure out, hey, there's a pothole on location X, and they'll go out and fix it. Pay with your phone, Starbucks. How many of you have Starbucks? You can go in Starbucks, you can debit your credit card, you can just pay for it. You can get onto United Airlines with a mobile application on your cell phone. Gate help. You don't know where the gate is. So there's a thing called Michello, I think that's M-I-C-E-L-L-O. It's a mobile application. The inventor's wife was pregnant and she had to use the restroom in a mall. And she couldn't find the restroom. That's how Michello was born. And so now they map out conferences like this so you know where you're going to go. They map out different restaurants, they map out shopping malls, and they map out conferences. You can arrange for a cab. It's called Uber app. If you fly into a city that you're not used to, go to Uber app and you can arrange for a cab when you get there. I'm going to talk a little bit about ride sharing, slugging, casual carpooling. That's what the application that we're using. We went out with an RFP, and I'll get into more detail. But you can actually start your car, you can unlock your car, you can have your car honk so you can find your car so you're not wasting a lot of time. One of these days, and I don't know if Google is in the room, but they have an automated vehicle. So imagine a day that's very, very close where you and your friend are out for dinner. The biggest issue in a heavily urbanized area is, where do I park? Well, that car in the future, you're going to hit a button, a key fob, is going to say park yourself. That car is going to go out and it's going to find a location where there's a parking, because parking lots are getting smarter. They're providing information about open spaces, about the cost. You'll have a fast track transponder on your dash. It will debit your transponder and it will go in and it will park and shut itself off. You have a nice relaxing dinner. After dinner, you hit come get me. That car will come right there and be waiting out for you. Now that eliminates cruising, that eliminates a lot of carbon burning, but that day is very, very close, and I actually witnessed it with Google's car. They actually have over 200,000 miles on that fully automated vehicle. And I'm proud to say that Caltrans started that effort many, many years ago with General Motors and the automated highway system. But the applications are now getting on your phone. And we're not from the Mideast, so you don't worry about starting your car up early and warming it up, but some people actually do that. Future mobile applications. There's a lot of things that we're looking at into the future. California was one of the few states, the only state that looked at paying for your insurance on a pay-as-you-go. So everybody said we want to underestimate the mileage to get a cheaper rate. Well, that's not the whole idea there. But with technology today, in essence, in the near future, you can do that. Imagine getting your driver's license renewed as you drive across the Bay Bridge and you use your fast track transponder. That's a good partnership between the Department of Motor Vehicles and Caltrans. Toyota Friend is a very, very good option. It's in the future, but it's the idea that your car is electric. It pings you. It says, hey, you forgot to plug me in tonight. So you go outside and you plug it in, and the car pings you back and says, I am going to be fully charged by 2:15 a.m. I'll see you tomorrow. That's what technology, that's what mobile applications are sending the transportation arena. As you start getting into Priuses and Volts and Leafs, you're going to need to charge your vehicle. And you may be in a rush, so you want that car to be charged when you wake up in the morning. This is the product that we're using. We went out with an RFP, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and I want to recognize Martin Engelman here. He's the Deputy Executive Director for Planning for Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And what we tried to do is we went out with an RFP. First, we applied for a climate change grant of $1.5 million. We got $500,000 or $525,000. Went out with an RFP to figure out where is there an off-the-shelf mobility application that can help us put people in cars, because one of the most underutilized spaces on the road, other than the empty trucks that run side by side with you, is those 3 seats that you have vacant when you drive in the morning. And so the idea is, how do you combine carpooling, slug lining or casual carpooling, and hitchhiking all into one? And we found that Avago is a mobile application. You should download it. They do it for buses as well. I stole this right off of Avago's presentation that they gave us when they sold us on the idea, but change is very, very difficult, and I know change is sometimes very difficult for government, but you can do it. I mean, I see a lot of improvements in the Department of Motor Vehicles. I worked for a long time with Caltrans to help improve the roadways. There's a lot of things that we can do as government officials to help change the culture of our people. So I'm going to get into some of this. What's the difference? What do we mean by carpooling? You can read that. Carpooling is and I'll give you the pros and cons of carpooling. It's easy, right? You set up 2 or 3 of your friends and you go. But the problem is it's inflexible. You have to leave when they leave, and you feel kind of guilty when you can't go at the same time. You're screwing up the parking, the carpooling, somebody has to wait. And so there are those issues associated with carpooling. Internet ride sharing is kind of like dating. You know, you might get lucky, you might not. There's no security and those kinds of things, so you get what you get. Slugging. Slugging started at the Bob's Big Boy on Interstate 395 in Springfield, Virginia. People got together. They started getting rides into Washington, D.C., and it works. It works very, very well. There's actually a culture for slugging. And slugging, it's a slug. A slug is a counterfeit quarter, and that's what the bus drivers called the people that are waiting. They're counterfeit bus riders, so they started calling them slugs. That's the term slugging. Out here it's called casual carpooling. But you have to have certain criteria. You have to have 2. There's a culture. You don't say anything. You may want to greet the driver, hi, but that's all you say. You don't say anything else, no conversation, nothing. There's a whole culture. There's a newsletter, and it works, but it only works in those areas where you have an HOV lane. You want 3+, because safety. 2 riders in with 1 driver is safer than one-on-one kind of a situation. And so there has to be a benefit, there has to be highly congested, and there has to be a lack of parking. So if carpooling was easier and more convenient, that's what we're thinking about. We're trying to put those 2 extra people or 3 extra people in your car when you drive to work. Where am I? Okay. Sorry. So internet ride sharing, talked about that. Next one. You guys are going backwards. I was just on a roll, too. What? Oh, I see. Okay, so what if carpooling were more easier and more convenient? This is where I want to be. So, the next slide. This is Avego's mission. So Avego is a company based out of Ireland. Martin made the mistake of when he wrote it up in our board letter, he said it was a startup company from Ireland. So immediately we get a bunch of emails saying, why are you going out with a firm when we can't find jobs in the United States and California, blah, blah, blah. But they're actually based out of San Jose. Right? So you got to start figuring all these things out, and you start hooking these matches up, and you can generate some real critical mass using this technology. And the key, other than critical mass, is the fact that you have a smartphone. You have the ability to go out and ping your friends. And so they have a pay-as-you-go system. They rate you based on, much like when you sell something on eBay, you do not want to have anything less than 5 stars. And so you want to make sure that the ride was good, you have good rating. And so you're in there because you have to give them your driver's license and you have to give them your credit card. And so you're in the system, you're checked out. And so we think it's safer. So what's going to happen in the future? These are some of the things. So we measure speed, volume, and density now. We're starting to talk about fleet management. We're trying to get more in tune with what the fleet is doing, where is it going, what is it hauling. How do we make sure we match rides up? And then we're leading toward, as I mentioned before with Google, the automated highway. And so to kind of finalize what's happening in transportation, I'm going to run you through some applications very quickly. But the key point is, for San Francisco Park, it's in the city today, it's operating. Look for a 90% accuracy on open spaces, open parking spaces, but it was built in San Francisco, California. Waze is up and running today, and this is the situation where you're not only getting traveler information, but you're actually feeding information back to your friends. You're talking about the ride, you're talking about what you saw. And that was actually developed in Palo Alto, California. Beat the Traffic. It's using traveler information. Caltrans did a study with UC Berkeley using smartphones, tracking smartphones through a heavily congested corridor, Interstate 880. They had it heavily instrumented with loop detectors, the old standard, and the cell phone matched up almost exactly with the data that's generated by those loop detectors. And that was made in Santa Clara. Michello, I think that's a Michello. It talks about shopping malls, conferences, colleges, hospitals, where do I go? And they get all their information from public plans, and so they know where to go. And they guide you to the restroom, they guide you to the Nordstrom, they guide you wherever you need to go. That's generated in Sunnyvale, California. I threw a TomTom in there. How many of you have nav units? You might have a TomTom. It's based out of the Netherlands, so it doesn't kind of fit in with the scheme. But I mean, most of these applications are developed here in the United States, at least in California as well. OnStar, it's the granddaddy, I think, of them all. Start your car, unlock your car, preheat your car, find your car. It does a lot of great things for you. And if there's an accident and you don't respond, it will send an ambulance out to make sure that you're okay. transit applications. Very, very important as we move into this SB 375 era of trying to move housing, making housing more dense, moving into the urban centers. We're going to need a transportation system to get you to and from jobs in your home and those things that you want to do. And so we're trying to make transit more amenable, more relevant. And so Next Bus is generated here in Mountain View, California, but they are tracking buses throughout the United States in heavily urbanized corridors. And the last is the transit application from Google. Google is very, very large in this space. They're doing a lot of great things, and so stay tuned with what's happening in the Google space. And that's what I have for you today. I don't know, Ed, you want to take some questions or anything like that? Does anybody have any questions, comments? It's just, yes, sir?
What's your opinion on applications like this being smart enough to be pushed down to a smartphone, say, of course, crossing the Bay Bridge, you get something pushed down without asking?
That's a great question. The question is whether or not you foresee in the future this information being pushed to you, regardless of whether you sign up or not, right? And I don't. That's an issue that is going to be addressed probably in the future, maybe addressed by Carlos when he's the secretary, the CIO of the great state of California. Currently, if you sign up for something and you ask, it will push all that information to you. Whether or not you want a cold call coming at you at all directions, I don't know. I know Caltrans, when we have a bridge closure or when they have a bridge closure, they'd love to push that information to everybody in the vicinity with a smartphone. Stay away, the bridge is going to close. That would be a good application. Maybe CalEMA in the future saying, we had an earthquake, you want to stay away from these areas, we can push that out to the smartphones. But I'm not sure you want advertising being pushed to your smartphone all the time, because then what happens is it becomes irrelevant, right? You become overloaded.
Raise your hand, I'll bring you a mic.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the invite again. Thanks, Russ.
So as I said in my introduction, Randy is truly a visionary and truly a pioneer in this area. And I think many of the things he talked about really shows that the device that we use, or just the mobile application, is really becoming a natural companion of our lives that we won't get rid of. So with that, please enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you.